Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Get to Know Shinko with me, your host, Noah Shenandoah. Today, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to introduce you to some of the incredible businesses right here in Shenandoah County and some of the incredible business owners and leaders who make it all possible. Today, I'm on North Main Street in Woodstock with Kary Haun,
Hi.
owner of Kary Haun Studio. And Kary, we're so excited to have you on Get to Know Shinko.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple questions for you today.
Okay.
First one is, what do you love about doing business right here in Shenandoah County?
So what I love about Shenandoah County and doing business here is that I get to be inspired by the beautiful place that it is every single day.
Yes.
So that if, sometimes I'm just driving down the road and I see something and I need to bring it back into the studio to get to work on it. Or if I'm not close to the studio, I will keep a little notepad and just like write down ideas and thoughts. But definitely the beauty of this place and some of the magic that just happens in our environment really just inspires me and it keeps me going in the studio.
So great natural inspirations all around that you can draw back into your artistic world.
It's true.
That's great. Second question for you is, what sparked your passion for ceramics?
So I'm going to try to not make that a long story.
Or what gets you fired up?
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Is fired up?
Fired up. What we do with the pots.
All right, keep going.
So I went to college to study art education. And when you do an art education major, you have to have a concentration. I was sure that my concentration would be painting. So I started along that path. And when you do art education, you also have to take a lot of surveys in a lot of different medium.
Okay.
So I took the first ceramics course along with some painting, and I was painting a lot. And but then I had to take another ceramics course and then a third and a fourth. So next thing I knew, I was changing that concentration to ceramics because one of the things that I really loved was about the community that it creates. Because when you're learning ceramics, it requires just a lot of practice. So for me and for a lot of my colleagues, it was late nights in the studio. And, outside of the classroom environment, you're learning and as you have struggles, hey, how did you get to that point? And then somebody else can like give you tips and how they fixed this problem. And and then you're firing as a group, different types of kilns, and it's a wonderful community.
Neat. That's great. Third question for you is, how would you describe your style of pottery?
So because I have that painting background, and I do still paint, but I do it for fun, whereas this is the work. But I also bring that into the pottery work. So what I always love it when I get a message from a customer, or somebody comes up to me when I'm selling my work at a craft fair or something, and they say, I use this cup every day. And that's like music to my ears. So what I try to do is I try to make very functional pottery. I like for people to be able to use it. And now, like my platters, for example, they can go up on the wall, but I also like for people to take them off the wall and use them. So you'll see that the painting goes into the pot. So I like to make each individual piece as like a different little work of art, and it just sort of elevates your experience day to day.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Fourth question for you is, could you briefly just kind of walk us through the process, kind of start to finish, of what it takes to take a piece from beginning all the way to finished product?
Sure. So I'll go through one type of work, right? So every different thing that I make, whether it's a platter or it's a cup or a teapot or a coffee pot, has a different set of processes, right? So, but a cup is one thing that people ask me all the time. How long does it take to make a cup, right? So I never make cups just one at a time. I always make them in batches. So here's a batch of about 14. I always work in about groups of 12 or 14.
And that's about the size I use for coffee.
Yeah.
Well,
and actually, this is, so what's interesting about this, so this will shrink about 16%.
Oh, wow.
So, the cups are actually, like, I'll show you a finished cup. It's a lot smaller than this.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'll make all of these, and then I'll let them sit overnight covered, and then they get to a point of leather hard, is what we describe it as. Not super soft, it's not super dry. And then I'll make handles. And then I'll sit so the cups will have to sit overnight, and then I'll make the handles the same day. Everybody sits overnight, and then the next day I'll come in and I'll put all the handles on the cups. And then I'll let those sit covered overnight. And then they can come back out, and I'll let them sit out until they dry. And just depending on the atmosphere in here, then it might take 2 or 3 nights for them to dry. Then I glaze the insides, let them dry overnight. Mm-hmm. Then I come back and decorate, and I can decorate for an entire day. Mm-hmm. And then I do more glaze work.
Okay.
Right. And it's just a lot of different, depending on what the images and stuff that I put on them, it's just a lot of glaze work and decorating. Sure. Then the firing is another 2 days. So
wow.
Start
That's
to finish.
Long process.
It is a long process. So if somebody were to ask me for a cup,
sure,
and it was a special order, I would say give me 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember you've told me before when you're firing them, what temperature is it that you're running them at?
About 2,200 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hot.
It is. It is. It gets warm in here in the summer.
I'm sure it does. In the winter, though, it's probably nice.
It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Kary, thanks for those.
Thank you.
She had all those questions in advance, but we always like to do kind of a fun question or two at the end. And the one that I kept thinking about, because if I was in here making pottery like this, I know it would be not nearly this beautiful. But I remember growing up, my mom, one of her favorite things she always would make was a pie crust. And she'd love to make pies. But occasionally that pie crust, even though she was so talented, wouldn't turn out quite right.
Okay.
And she would get really upset with it. She would crumble it up, and she would go and throw it over the hill in the back.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And just like, hey, I'm done with this. I got to start over. So what do you do when you have a piece that doesn't turn out quite as you hoped it would?
It's actually, it's really, so people get really upset with me. But I do have, I'll set them aside. So okay, let me back up. Okay. It depends.
Okay.
If it's a piece that I need to learn something from.
Okay.
Right. So if it's a mistake that happened that was a part of my process,
sure,
I will leave it sitting on a shelf.
Okay.
And it'll serve as a reminder of what not to do. Yes.
Okay. So like a little instructor. Mm-hmm. Yep. I like that.
If it's a piece that is particularly beautiful and, but it has a flaw and it just is something that I can't sell because of that flaw. And I have quality control.
Sure.
I will leave it on the shelf to remind me of what to do later. Right. This is something that, I really love how this part turned out. So I want to keep doing
replicate that. Sure.
So at some point I will have learned enough from them. They will have sat there for a long time and I will just have a big toss them in a bin party. And it's a party of one. Nobody else is invited.
Nobody else is invited to it.
And so they'll go into like a cardboard box, and I'll throw them. I'll throw a piece. Something might not break, but if by the time I throw the second piece on it, they all start to shatter. Yep. And it's it's a great noise. Sometimes I'll do a video for real. It's very cathartic. Yes. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about mosaics.
I'm not going to talk to you about mosaics. That's right. All right. We won't bring that up. So one last question for you, because I'm sure people watching this will have interest in pottery and in ceramics. So if someone's watching and they say they really would love to get into learning, how do you do this? Yeah. Where would you point them, instruct them? Like, what would be some good steps? And I know you mentioned to me earlier that you'd be glad to kind of field some questions to the people may have on this video.
Yeah, so if you leave a question, I'm happy to answer. So, well, one of the things about learning in pottery is that, I think I sort of touched on this a little bit before. It's a lot of practice, right? So I don't give lessons in this studio because I have some other things that that I have to do in my off time. But it's like learning an instrument, right? I can give you an hour-long lesson, but then you've got to go and practice, right? And so most people don't have this type of equipment in their homes or in their basements. If you do, maybe, reach out to me. But but the point is that you have to go back and practice, especially for wheel throwing, for sure. But I can certainly point you in the direction. There's a new place that just opened up in Harrisburg that that is like a community studio. And a community studio, and kind of back to what I was saying before, is really the best way to learn.
Yeah. Because you can learn off each other and grow together.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Kary, thank you so much for being on Get to Know Shenko.
This is so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you would like to learn more about Kary Haun Studio, you can connect with Kary a couple different ways. First, through her website, which is KaryHaun.com.
KaryHaun.com.
You said it better than I did.
Yes.
And you also can connect with her through Facebook
and Instagram,
which is Kary Haun Studio.
At Kary Haun Studio.
Kary Haun Studio.
That's for my Facebook page and for my Instagram page.
Okay, great. And then they can reach out through there. If they're interested in purchasing something or coming. The studio is open by appointment only.
By appointment only,
and the best way to do that is through those avenues, social media or the website.
Just reach out to me.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Well, very good. Well, I'm Noah Shenandoah, encouraging you until next time together that you get out and get to know Shenko. If you'd like to have your business featured on Get to Know Shenko, please reach out to me, John Fogel, at jfogel@shenandoahcountyva.us, or message me right here on Facebook. We appreciate you watching this video and helping to get the word out on all the amazing businesses right here in Shenandoah County.